Tonight for dinner, I made some barbecue ribs, but I really wanted to show you one of my favorite side dishes, my super easy mashed potatoes. These are super delicious and they are ridiculously easy. They cook in chicken broth and garlic broth and takes all the guesswork out of it, and then they go great with any entree. We'll have these potatoes with steak, we'll have them with some chicken dishes, and tonight we're having them with barbecue pork.
My mashed potatoes are super easy. We're actually just going to start by peeling a bunch of potatoes. I don't normally make this much, but I've got all these potatoes that are kind of on their way out, and I really don't want them to go to waste. So I'm just going to make a really big batch of mashed potatoes, and then I'm going to freeze whatever we don't eat kind of in portions for, future meals. If I ever make something where we just need one night's worth of mashed potatoes, I'll pull out one of these bags and just heat them up with a little bit of water or chicken broth, and they'll be basically as good as new. My potatoes are all peeled, and I gave all of them just a quick rinse. I'm just going to cut them up into some pretty small pieces. Doesn't have to be perfect, they just have to be kind of similar, maybe about an inch or a little smaller than an inch. And I'm actually just going to set these straight into the pot that they're going to cook in. And then for something like potatoes, of course, the smaller you cut them, the faster they will cook. But if you cut them too small, then they'll kind of start to disintegrate in the water a little bit sooner, and it's a lot easier for them to get super overcooked. So I like to keep them all at a decent size. I don't like anything to be too small. Alright, all of my potatoes are cut. I'm going to give these one more rinse, and then we're going to add our stock to cook it up. My potatoes are rinsed, and I've just covered them with water. Sometimes I'll use a chicken stock if I have one, but I'm just going to use some bouillon today, and I like to do a mixture of a chicken bouillon and this garlic base. These are both from Bouillon. These are my all-time favorite, quick and easy broth, bouillon cubes, whatever. I'm going to do a super generous amount. My pots actually have measuring lines on the inside of them, so the water is going up to the 6-cup mark right now. That includes the potatoes, of course. I'm going to do probably about 6 to 8 cups worth of bouillon. I'm going to do about half and half chicken and half garlic. And I'm super generous with this because this is literally where all of the flavor is coming from. I want lots of garlic flavor, I want lots of potato flavor, and I just think this is the best way to get that. I'm just going to give this a really good mix. And with this stuff, my water has become almost opaque. I can see just the top layer of potatoes, but I can't see all the way down through the pot anymore. And it's just got kind of a really nice golden color to it. And that's it. I'm just going to set this on the stove, I'm going to cover it and let it boil for about 20 minutes until everything is cooked, and then we are going to mash everything.
My potatoes are fully cooked. These were simmering on the stove for probably around 15 to 20 minutes. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to strain out most of the liquid. And I never know exactly how much liquid I'm going to use in the end, so I like to just put it in my 2-cup measure and kind of keep it on the side while I am mixing the rest of these. Jesus, I guess I'm not doing that. All right, I've kept a little bit of liquid in here. I'm going to add in, this is a pretty big batch of potatoes, so I'm going to add in a full stick of butter. And this is probably going to be 3 meals worth of potatoes for us. So this 1 stick of butter spread out over 3 meals is not quite so bad. And I'm just going to kind of break the potatoes up a little bit, get that butter starting to melt. And I know using this hand mixer is kind of a no-no in the potato world, but I like it. I don't feel that my potatoes are getting, you know, gummy. I don't feel that they're getting into be a really bad texture or anything like that. So this is what I've been doing for a long time. This is how I like to make my mashed potatoes. I don't like the texture that comes with using a potato ricer. I prefer even just using a hand masher, but this is fast and this is easy, and this is really what we like in this house. So my butter is kind of halfway melted. I'm just going to give this a mix until everything is basically smooth. And I like to start this out on a pretty low speed until I can see that it's mostly mash. And then I'll just turn it up slowly. And it's a little bit thicker than I want, so I'm going to add just a little bit of my boiling liquid back in. And this is all flavor. This is chicken broth and that garlic bouillon. And of course, it tastes like potatoes because it's what the potatoes were cooked in. So I'm just adding more flavor back in. And then it's kind of important that you scrape around the edges because some of the chunks will just kind of slide up the edges and then they won't get mixed in. And then really you want to just do this until this is the consistency that you like. We like our potatoes to be a little bit thinner than what you would normally find at, you know, a restaurant or anything. My potatoes are done. I'm actually not going to get rid of this leftover liquid yet. Something that I know happens when you freeze something like mashed potatoes, or even when you put it in the fridge, when you go back to reheat it, it tends to dry out a little bit. So I like to save this, and what I'm going to do is when it's time to pack this up, I'm going to pack it up in portions so that I'm only heating up what we're going to be having for that evening. And I'm going to make it really thin. I'm going to thin it out with this until it's almost too thin for what you would imagine for mashed potatoes, but it's okay because when you heat it back up in the microwave, it's going to thicken back up. A lot of that liquid's going to evaporate, and when something comes out of the freezer, it tends to be just a little bit drier. So I'm going to save the rest of this liquid, and when it's time to pack it up, I'm just going to thin this out the rest of the way.